This is the Cliff Yates Show. Personal growth, motivation, inspiration, and philosophies for a great life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Cliff Yates Show, and I have a great guest with me today, Dhruv Sethi. I'm so happy to have him here. He has a podcast called the Midlife Masculine Podcast, and he has a lot to do with ancient philosophy, and I think a lot to do with masculinity and men, and the questions we ask ourselves, and how we can get better moving forward. I think I'm on track with that, but I know him and I believe we're going to have a great conversation that some people can benefit from. So, Dhruv, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Thanks for having me, Cliff. Great to be here.
Yeah, we were talking off camera how you got into how we get to an inflection point. I like that you said that, where we ask ourselves, have we accomplished what we want to do, or what we can do going forward? Am I right with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what my podcast serves. Sort of when we reach our midlife, especially as men, we reach an inflection point. We look back in our lives and we ask ourselves, did I achieve everything I wanted to achieve? All those dreams, testosterone-driven alpha energy, targets that we had, did we achieve them? And are we satisfied? But then the answer to that is usually no. So the purpose of the podcast is really to bring about guests, experts, to present and talk about ancient and contemporary knowledge, wisdom for men to have that second shot in lives. And I'm on that boat as well. So I'm at that inflection point, and I want to do things much better for the second half of my life.
Wow, that's great. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 41.
41, yeah. Hey, I'm at the halfway point. I'm 66. I only have to live to 122.
You're way above and beyond the midlife men now. You're seen as a wise person.
I like it. Oh my God, I like that, Dhruv. That's awesome. Hey, you know what? I like your opinion. But I do look back, or I have looked back, and I was very happy with a lot that I've achieved, and there's always some things that I thought would go a different way. But I think more I'm into mentally is I feel I have a lot more to do. I'm very motivated and driven. Where I see some people, I'm kind of disappointed. I see them not driven. They're like, well, at our age, and I go, man, I never want to get there mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, similar to you, I've achieved a lot that I wanted to achieve, but don't necessarily feel that fulfillment. And now that I look back, it wasn't really what my soul wanted. I mean, getting all those academic and professional degrees, getting the career in finance and banking, which is great. I loved it. But there's something else that the soul is craving. And that's the stage that I'm at right now.
I'm with you, man. I'm in line with you. I was doing, it was very fulfilling. I was doing a lot of stand-up comedy. Not only was I a cop by day, I was a comedian at night. But then I found myself, in opening for a headliner in the mid-country, telling stupid jokes at 2 a.m. And I go, my soul was saying, you're not supposed to be here. And so that's when I started going in a different direction. But so I'm interested in, so you're into a lot of philosophy or ancient philosophers or way of thinking, or tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'm quite spiritual. So we were talking off camera earlier that I was born in India. So quite naturally, we have a spiritual inclination, not necessarily religious, but it's very spiritual in nature. So I always had that. We were following the Hindu traditions.
Yeah.
So I never lost that. But then you want to get the degrees and all of that, the job, a corporate job, all of that, and you sort of forget it. But it's not out of your system. And it wasn't until I married and I divorced my ex-wife very soon after marriage. It was a very toxic relationship, but thankfully very short. And it was after that then I realized that there's more to life, and marriage and degrees and jobs, all of that. It wasn't totally fulfilling. And after that, I was dating, as you could call me, a serial dater. Had my heart broken a number of times, and I also broke some hearts, unfortunately, a number of times. But in that process, I became more and more spiritual. But it wasn't until a significant breakup that happened in 2020. That's when the light sort of switched. And then I thought, okay, you know what? All these women are not the problem. I must be the problem. What is it that's missing in me? And that really accelerated my spiritual thinking, reading books, and viewing things differently, especially in terms of masculine and feminine energies. Um, we're often told that men and women are the same, but we're uh, perhaps our soul are the same, the source of our soul is the same, but biologically and psychologically we're very different, and it's something that we should respect. The polarity should be respected, and that's something that I started reading more on and viewing life differently as well.
I agree 100%. Yeah. That was kind of my turning point too when I realized it's not out there. It's not the negative relatives. It's not the economy. It's me. And so when I realized that, it was, it's me. But yet, I'm the one that I have total control over. So actually, I was empowered when I came to that realization because now I'm in total control of me. And so now that it's a inside job, then that's kind of exciting because I can pick whatever direction that I want to go to. And like you, went on a really spiritual journey, and also just, I'm into being a lifelong learner now. I can't read enough. I almost wish, God, I wish I was like this when I was in school, where I just wanted to read everything in sight. But of course I wasn't. But now I'm study all the time. There's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, I feel the same, just like you.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn now, and it's just like, oh man, am I gonna live long enough to experience this, to try this out? It's a bit like that now.
Yes. I feel the same exact way. Wow. Do you study a certain type of philosophy, or do you delve into different things, or what have you been reading lately?
So I generally delve into different things, and after that breakup that I was talking about in 2020, I got very much into uh, masculine and feminine energies, how the ancient philosophies viewed that, the Hindu traditions and the Tao traditions as well, and how they manifest themselves not only in creatures, in living beings like us, but also in, well, in plants and nature as well. Like the sun is a
Yeah.
masculine type of energy. So how should you view that? How can you use that, the sun energy, to enhance your masculinity? Similarly, the moon is feminine energy. How can you use that to balance your masculine and feminine energies within yourself? In terms of books, I mean, there are a few books that have been amazing, but generally, that's the path that I tread along.
Yeah. It's funny that people don't put enough knowledge into how, like you said, the sun and also the moon affects our bodies and our minds. And we used to see that in the police work, right? I mean, it became a joke, oh, it must be a full moon tonight. But the moon, and I'm right here on the ocean, so you see how the moon affects the tides. Well, the moon is going to affect the way it moves the water in our bodies and our minds. So obviously it's going to have an effect on us, right?
Absolutely. I mean, water is one of the five elements. And just like you pointed out, we are full of water. They say we have 70% water. So if it's going to affect these vast oceans, it would affect us as well.
Yeah, yeah. I did a podcast on negative ions. Have you heard of that? Negative ions, or
I know of negative ions, but I didn't listen to that podcast.
it's like molecules that have an extra an ex no, they're
Extra
miss it's
proton or
missing.
extra electron.
Yeah, and it creates a positive charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so being near the water is has that. And I guess they call it earthing, earthers. They like to get their bare feet on the sand or the dirt,
Yeah.
and that's where you get a lot of negative ions too. And it kind of counteracts free radicals that are in our body that are really negative on our health. And so I've been really and it makes sense, right? Because you can get that from anywhere crashing water, and I think that's a reason why. Some people say, well, I feel so much better when I take a nice hot shower. Well, part of that, I think, is because you get a lot of negative ions from the water crashing on you. And so I've been really into that. And like I'm on the beach, so I make sure like every day I try to get 15, 20 minutes of just taking that in, or if I can get my bare feet on the sand. I think it really has a really a positive effect on our emotions and our health for sure.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, walking bare feet on sand, on grass. I mean, grass has been proven, and I'm sure on some research, walking on sand as well. And it's
Yeah.
like you're saying, these charged particles, that means there must be an opposite charged
Correct.
particle as well.
Yeah.
And when they interact, that's when energy is sort of transferred or created. And in just um, taking a bit of a philosophical view on this, is when we are walking bare feet on grass or sand, and like you just explained scientifically, it's the ions, but philosophically, what's happening is you're letting these negative energies pass through into Mother Earth, and the Mother Earth will take that. And at the same time, Mother Earth will give you that positive energy up as well. There's always an exchange of energy,
Ah,
no matter
yeah.
where you are. Everything is two-way.
Right. That makes sense. What do you think about? So you studied the difference between men and women and masculinity. What do you think of what's going on today with this, with the really biological men are competing in women's sports, and what's your view on that?
I think that's crazy, honestly. I mean, it's unfair for the women, and we're not getting, and it's pretty crazy that men want to do that as well. I'm not sure what the motivation is, but I always think there must be some money involved. I mean, there was this female, or actually male swimmer, was it Leah Thomas?
Oh yeah, yeah, and she took the thing against Riley Gaines, yeah,
Yeah,
in Florida, yeah, Riley, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's
So he
got
was
me.
ranked 248 when he was competing as a man, but then when he started competing as a woman, he was ranked first.
Yeah,
And I can only imagine that there's something to do with sponsorships, money, and all of that. And the facade of it is it's pretty fake. It's just like, oh, I'm a woman, I feel like a woman, but there's some business motive to it. I'm like, that's my gut feeling.
no, I agree. I just can't believe that I don't. To me, there's not a lot of. I expected more pushback because, here you have dads, they're here watching their young daughters compete in a swim meet, and then there's a biological man, changing naked in front of their daughter in the locker room, and there's no violent protest on this. It bothers me every day. I did a podcast on it because and I imagine there's people in the trans community who don't want that happening either, because they don't want that negative energy. They just want to do their thing, and they themselves think it wouldn't be fair to compete physically and take away these scholarships and these records from. I just wonder where the Me Too movement is and why there isn't people standing up. I just saw something from Riley Gaines. I'm gonna contribute to her movement because I'm standing up with women on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is hypocrisy on an astronomical
Yeah.
scale. And also I forget the guy's name now, with the Coors beer. What was his name?
Yeah, that guy. Oh God, it got me going so much. Yeah, I just but it's almost like, and I'm one of those guys, and probably you too, because of your culture. I'm assuming, we're just respectful people. We follow the laws. But what's going on today is so crazy. I feel like I'm almost obligated to stand for something. I mean, you need to stand up against what is blatantly, this is wrong, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad. I forget this guy's name now, but
I do. Yeah, Mulvaney or something.
Mulvaney,
Yeah.
Dylan Mulvaney.
Dylan Mulvaney, yeah.
But I think people secretly are quite upset, like you and I are.
I do
right
believe it,
now.
yeah.
And hence why Coors Light, the parent company of the Coors Light,
Yeah,
suffers such astronomical losses as well.
exactly. You know what the problem is, and I think Coors Light, no, Bud Light was the brand originally. Are they owned by Coors Light or?
I think, sorry, Bud Light was the brand that he was drinking.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
But they might be owned by Anheuser-Busch or a parent company.
Yeah. You're right. Thanks for the correction. It was Anheuser.
No,
Yeah.
and that's the problem, right? Because then people say, you know what? No more Bud Light. I'm going to go drink. They're actually drinking a beer from the same company. You know what I mean? It's like you have to know who the actual owners are, right, of these companies, because sometimes they own numerous brands and you're not punishing them at all, right?
Absolutely agreed. And it goes a step further as well. Who's pushing all of this? It's usually the very, very large asset managers like BlackRock.
Yes. Yeah.
Essentially the ones who created this policy. And a lot of other companies are taking that on board.
Yeah, I was reading on your site, and I was agreeing with you. I'm glad you're willing to talk about that, because I believe there is a spiritual warfare to this, and you said some other things that led me to believe you were okay to to bring this up, specifically when we talk about masculinity and and of course, when now acting as a man is normally what you would be acting is considered toxic, right? Oh, as toxic masculinity. No, that's what a man should be doing, right?
Absolutely. And just going back to the time when I was married and divorced in 2016, I went through a phase where I really didn't trust women at all.
Yeah,
And but I was still serially dating for my own pleasure.
right.
But one common theme that I noticed was modern women, especially in a big city, metropolitan city like London, think men and women are equal. It's the same. It's just a social construct, and that's it. There's nothing to it. We're the same. We think the same. We are the same. And of course, I was dating. I was having short-term success, if you like. But it wasn't until my heart was broken and I started reading a few books and philosophies, and then it sort of clicked that, you know what, there is a polarity. I mean, I grew
Yes.
up in a house where my mom and my dad, they played their respective feminine and masculine roles, and I had a great childhood. Why would I change that? And
Yeah.
so when I experienced that heartbreak, and I started thinking in terms of there is a polarity and we should honor and respect that polarity.
Yes.
So even if people call me toxic masculine, I was okay with that because I knew deep inside that there's an essence. The essence of my energy is masculine, and
Yes.
I should honor that.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I like you said polarity because we know if you think about energy that's positive and negative, how two will repel it. They'll repel two positives or two negatives, and so when you have the polarity, they will come together naturally. And so we're made that way, right, to fit together with those the polarity of the energies. So
Absolutely.
interesting. Yeah.
And if you think about it, the way what a woman is attracted to and what a man is
Exactly.
attracted
Yeah.
to is totally opposites. I mean, women generally, the feminine energy I'm talking about is quite insecure, a bit self-conscious, never had that confidence. What do they like in men? Men who are secure, who have confidence, who are comfortable in themselves. They
Correct.
don't like taking risks. They want to be a bit conservative in a lot of things. Feminine energy, that is. What do they like in men? Men who are a bit bold, who take risks,
Yes.
calculated
Yeah.
risks, of course. So we are opposites, and we like the opposites in each other as well.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's where the lines get blurred. Is we need to be bold, but not a bully. We need to be kind, but not timid. These things, right? And so there's a balance there, and women are attracted to that, and that's good. That man, that you're gaining a lot of knowledge on that. I was in one of my podcasts when we were talking about the men competing. So I did a thing because this biological male, he won a golf tournament here in Florida, and so it was funny that so the LPGA before 2010 you had to be born a biological male to compete in an LPGA tournament or even one of the qualifiers up to the pro level. And after 2010, they changed that. So now you can, as long as you did certain things. We're taking certain hormones for a certain amount of years. But I'm just surprised at a brand they did that. But maybe to what you said, there's money behind this somewhere.
Absolutely, I think so. And I'm hearing that in the US, uh, puberty inhibitors are encouraged amongst young people.
Yeah. These puberty blockers. Are you in the UK or you're in London?
Yeah, London, UK.
Oh yeah, yeah. I met some great guys from. I'm going to get back to that, but I met a great group from London. This last September, my wife went to it. She was going on a biking trip in Mallorca, Spain, and she goes, "You always wanted to go to the Rafa Nadal Tennis Academy. Why don't you go the same time, and we can both go to Mallorca?" So we did that, and I went alone to the Rafa Nadal Academy there in Mallorca. But I met these guys from London. They came 20 deep from a tennis group in London. I guess it's only a couple hour flight, and they come every year. But God, they were so great. I was so happy to meet them because they met me. They had me join them for dinner every night, and they were so friendly and open and warm and welcoming. So that was my experience with UK London people. But it was very good, positive.
Yeah, I think British people make themselves known when they go on holidays in
Yeah,
various ways.
that's right. Yeah, I had a great experience with those guys. Awesome, and real positive people. But I was surprised. I didn't realize the geographics that it was so close to Mallorca, Spain. So it was kind of cool. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. There's something to this And like you say, and like you said, I know what you said in one of your writings on your site was, things that even myself would think, well, that's a bridge too far. That is a conspiracy theory. And now it's becoming so true. All these things, they were no conspiracy theories at all. And so we just had a shooting in, it was a pretty famous pastor, Joel Osteen in Houston, where they said it was a female, but it was actually a male trans who went in there with a long rifle. But I'm noticing a lot of these, and I think it's on purpose, a lot of these shooters, they're on these medications to help them with a transition, and it's causing a psychological problem. And a lot of them relate to that. They're not really making a big news article about it, but I think that's causing a lot of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, and even people who took the COVID vaccine are experiencing very bad side effects, but they're not making a big news out of it. Perhaps it serves some great agenda that we're not aware of.
What was the attitude in the UK on the vaccine?
Generally speaking, the people I came across, they were very pro-vaccine in the beginning. They just wanted to take it, and for those who didn't want to take it, they were vilified and they were trying to oust them out of society. But there were few of us, few and far between. But I think we held our ground, and it seems like we've got our way now. But the last World Economic Forum, they were talking about disease X, so they're trying to advertise that. But I don't think people are having it this time.
I don't think so. Yeah, my wife and I didn't take it, and it's hard to talk to people about it because it's hard to tell people. People don't want to even admit that they made a mistake because a lot of them feel they shouldn't have taken it, and now they just don't want to. I mean, how do you can't talk about it with people? But I just never initially I didn't do it because I didn't. I never even took a flu vaccine in my life, so it wasn't something I was even considering. And we're both in great health. But to give you some perspective, so my wife was born in Cuba, and she came when she was 6, like you. She moved out of away from Cuba at 6, and then to California, and so we were living in California. And she said we can never move to Florida because the grandkids are here, and I got to be close to the grandkids. So I said, oh, I'm okay with that, even though I had wanted to move to Florida because we have a property upstate New York. And so we were out here, we were in Florida vacationing, and then the shutdown started happening. And she said, this is communism. I'm not going back to California because I can't be shut down like this. And so we ended up selling our house within 30 days, and we moved to Florida because of that.
Yeah, I mean, California is like it's like a communist state now, and Florida
really
has been the opposite in COVID.
We were like, I want to say almost wide open. My mom came down from New York, and she goes, you people you're acting as if nothing's happening, because I was going to a church. I never saw one mask, nothing. And so we were pretty open. I mean, for quite a while, the people in the restaurants wore masks. There were workers and whatnot, but a lot of it was virtue signaling, and it was just. But we were castigated by some of our friends and family for not being seen in public without a mask, and it was like, what? Yeah. Was there a lot of were people vilified there in the UK if you weren't like wearing a mask or going along with the program? Or?
Yeah, that was my experience in London. I'm not sure outside of London, but I experienced that, and a few of my friends who decided not to take the vaccine as well, they've experienced the same thing. But 4 years on, I think a lot of people who took the vaccine are experiencing side effects. But what happens is the ego takes over because they made that mistake back then, and probably they were advertising for the vaccine. They have a hard time admitting, I made a mistake. It's the ego that's sort of grown and is sort of protecting them a little bit.
No, that's correct. That's what I was getting to. It's they don't want to say to themselves, I made the wrong decision. I got duped into this. And so they don't really want to come and make that leap. And so they hold on to the, and I don't know if maybe, my theory is maybe that some of it was inert, or maybe there was a couple strands. I mean, obviously, or maybe just the body adapts well, because some people obviously didn't have a negative reaction to it. But, a lot of it, they're not really putting together. There are people dropping dead all over the place. And I have a lot of examples of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I believe there was something because I experienced something, but I don't know if it was a pandemic. I think it was a pandemic in the minds. The media was pumping things out and it made it seem like it's cross border, cross continental, and it made it a lot bigger than it actually was. That's my belief. And people were indeed dying, and
Oh yeah,
I
no
know
doubt.
people as well. But I think what this strand or vaccine, the virus did was it exacerbated existing conditions. So
Correct.
unfortunately, whoever I know that died, unfortunately had some pre-medical conditions, and
Yeah.
so the virus
Premorbidity, as they call it.
exacerbated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to go back to one point as well. So
Please. Oh no, you're open. Go with it, whatever you want to go with.
yeah, so we just talked about the people who took the vaccine and they have a hard time accepting that they made a mistake. I would urge them to really introspect. I mean, their body, their lives, it's more important than their ego. They should just admit it, and if they accept it within themselves, then they can cure themselves. There are ways of curing themselves, eating healthy for 6 months or some sort of detox
Oh
diet.
no, yeah,
They can
absolutely.
cure
Yeah.
themselves. But the first thing is they have to accept it. And because right now the ego has grown. Whereas
Yeah.
in your and my case, our souls, we listen to our souls. Our souls was telling us that something is wrong.
Correct. Oh no, that's right. I got that same message. Yeah. Well, I will admit, a lot of people I know, and pretty a large number have said, well, I'm not getting. I decided no boosters. So a lot of people did kind of come to like, no, because there was some blatant lies, right? Obviously, the people in America were told get the vaccine. Then you can't transfer it and you can't get it. And what they do, they got it and they transferred it. So, what is the truth, right? So there was no evidence that you took the vaccine and then you didn't get it. It was the unprovable. Well, it's not as bad as it would have been if you hadn't taken it. Well, I
Exactly.
can't prove that. How do you prove it, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but you're
I
so
think
right.
the bigger picture is that we are at this spiritual war, and the quote unquote elites are going to be pumping these kinds of things for us
Yeah.
to follow and listen. And somewhere, people like you and me, and there needs to be more people who listen to their soul. Like, what's the soul really
Yeah.
trying to tell us? Is it right? Is it wrong? And just listen to our souls, and then we will succeed. And just to draw a parallel with my dating life as well, a few years ago when I knew that there is a polarity between men and women. I
Yeah.
was listening to my soul. And then what happened? I improved as a man. I became more attractive as a man as well
That's
because my
right.
soul
Yeah.
was telling me that there is a polarity and we have to respect it. And people who live in the big metropolitan cities are the ones who experience this lack of polarity more than those who
Yeah.
live outside of the cities.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. Yeah. Your soul does tell you. For me, it's God is telling you, that if you would listen to that voice, it's leading you in the right direction and working through you. Sure, if people would listen to that, but of course, when you're involved in the big city and a lot of noise, sometimes you can't hear that voice coming through, right? You can't hear your soul talking to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we were
Yeah.
talking about walking in nature. These things have helped
Yes.
me, and I'm sure it'll help a lot of other your listeners as well. Like spend some time in nature, those kinds of things. And so I personally I meditate every morning, and
Yeah.
that has really helped me to listen to signals which I think I'm getting from another dimension, God.
Yes.
A nudge here and there, like whilst I'm walking, I might trip. And what does that mean? That is God or a higher being trying to tell you something. So, what's the first thought that comes in my mind when I trip, or somebody bumps into me, and sort of my attention is taken away?
Yeah.
So I try to follow that. That's one way I believe that God and the higher spirits are trying to talk to us and guide us in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I agree. And I think, man, the more I think that, and I want your thoughts on this because you kind of mentioned it because I was kind of ignorant. Until recently, and maybe that's true for all of us. Just wasn't a political person, didn't really pay it. But at least now I'm paying attention, and a lot of people are. But I didn't even, my one buddy who's superbly up on all this stuff is just trying to convince me of this World Economic Forum and how they want to go to one world order, and all this. Then I started looking at it, and then I started seeing these things. I mean, and they really do want to, like, no borders, and they want somebody, they want, as you say, that elite class calling the shots, and kind of culling the herd here a little bit. I'm seeing this stuff pretty blatantly. Are you seeing that yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, when I was younger, I believed in these conspiracy theories, but when they started talking about, oh, you know, the aliens sort of run the world, and when I was younger, I started drifting away from it. But then COVID happened, and now I'm like, you know what? Everything is plausible. There may be aliens who are sort of in the higher realms of government running things. It's plausible because I knew COVID was a lie. And what else had they been lying to me about? History must be a lie. I mean, there's so many things. So yeah, to your point, yeah, I see these conspiracy theories as more plausible now. So now what I say is there are no such thing as conspiracy theories because they all came true.
Yeah. Well, even if you just, even the Bible talks about, I forgot what they were called, the Ephilim or something. They were kind of like giants, but they were attracted to the humans and they had sex with the humans. And hey, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things like Stonehenge, a lot of these things where people can't explain how in that time they did all these things they didn't have the technology to do all those things. A lot of unexplainable things. So, I mean, I'm like you. I'm open-minded to a lot that's going on today. And, man, it's incumbent on all of us to pay attention and to test everything and hold it up to the light of truth, right? I guess that's someone was just telling me that's in the Bible too. Test everything, hold it up to the light, and see what truth there is in it.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bible says it, and also the ancient Indian and Eastern traditions say it as well. Like it was Buddha's quote who said, "Don't believe anything unless it reasons with you."
That's correct. Yeah, I forgot if it was in the. Is it the Tao Te Ching, or is that it, or it's the Tao? I guess the Tao.
Taoism, yeah. So
Tao, yeah.
It's a stream of the Buddhist faith. But
Yeah.
this particular quote was from Buddha.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Have you heard of that guy? That guy Sadhguru? Do you know him?
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah,
Man, he says some pretty profound things, though. Man, he's on that motorcycle and he goes around the world, and it's kind of interesting, man. Yeah.
I quite like him. I mean, he's very logical in how he explains things. I enjoy listening to him, but sometimes, yeah, he doesn't answer the question directly. He waffles a little bit too much. I would like him to just go straight to the.
No. Yeah, you're right. But I do like that he has a spirit of joy that I see and I get from him that is coming from, he's just a joyous person in a calm way, in a steady, calm waters way, but he's full of joy. I get that from him. I mean, he gets on his motorcycle, but he's very grounded, I think. And I mean, I don't watch him a lot, but I mean, when he comes up on my feed, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I quite like him. And he's philosophical in his ways, and he's very calm. He explains things very well.
Yeah.
Another person that I like is Sri Ravi Shankar,
Oh, no,
who's
I don't know
very
him.
knowledgeable as well, very calm.
How do you, Shishi? How do you spell it?
So, SRI.
Okay.
And the third word is Ravi Shankar, RAVISHANKAR.
Oh, Ravi Shankar. Okay, I'm going to look that up. Yeah. I'm always I talk to people and I just learn something all the time, right? I can always learn from anybody, anywhere, at any time. I know you probably have the same philosophy, and it's just when you're open to taking in new knowledge, it's awesome.
Absolutely. And Alan Watts is another one. I mean, he's a classic.
Yeah.
He's
Alan
a classic.
Watts,
He
yeah.
adds so much humor to all these ancient
Yeah.
teachings.
There's another, like, my buddy showed me this. It was, he goes, oh, they're saying this is from Alan Watts. And they showed me, and I go, well, that's not the real Alan Watts. The Alan Watts we're talking about is from the 50s or whatever. And this was some kind of, he might have been hijacking the name just to get views. I don't know, but but Alan Watts, I have him on Audible. Yeah, I just like hearing his voice. And great I love these ancient philosophers. As a matter of fact, I got into all of the philosophers. I got into, I don't know if you know Ryan Holiday, but he kind of went into Stoicism and all Greek philosophers. And so I got into that, and then I was thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't be following this because it's not Christian. And then I got into, well, Thomas Aquinas used to follow Aristotle. And then the Catholics really attacked him for that. And he said, listen, all truth is God's truth. So it doesn't matter if he's not in the church or not. Truth is truth. And so he held tight to that, but he was before the Reformations. He was like in the 1200s or whatever, but he was a great philosopher. He was more of a philosopher really than a Catholic saint, right? Yeah. So I love reading about. Because I like going back. I've gone to Tony Robbins and I've gone to a lot of these. You would call them business gurus or motivation gurus, but I find a lot of their philosophies are biblical or they go back centuries. So I like to always backtrack and go, but that actually goes back to 1910. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I find that the best motivational speakers are those who refer to the ancient traditions, biblical or Eastern philosophies, and they sort of use that and make it more relevant in today's life. Another motivational speaker I like, unfortunately, he passed away, I believe it was last year, is Bob Proctor.
Oh, I love Bob Proctor. I follow his, I still get his emails. Bob Proctor, because, Dhruv, I'm into I don't believe in these limitations. I'm just because you're 70, 80. He was in business till the day he died. And he was well into his 80s, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these things, his words, they're timeless.
Timeless. No, I like evergreen thoughts and principles that are applicable for all time. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I followed a guy when I first got introduced to personal growth and motivation. I had decided I was in a negative place and I ended up going to get my real estate license, and my broker sent me to a guy. I thought it was for sales training. I think that's what it was for, but it was Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn, if you've heard him, and then Tony Robbins had gone to him. But Jim Rohn used to say these great things. He died, but he's still online, all his videos. But he used to say, I'm an amateur on the Bible, and then I kept hearing, and I was researching, he was probably an expert on the Bible, even though he used to say, I'm an amateur on the Bible, but it says here. But I think he was an expert, really. But man, he is, to this day, I follow his principles. And, when you're in this realm, when you're studying all these things, Dhruv, you assume other people know these people too, but you can mention their name and they go, no, I never heard of that guy. You never heard of him? Jeez.
Yeah. I still listen to Jim Rohn as well. I've got it on my Spotify.
Yeah.
Every now and then I put it on. It's just amazing. Yeah.
I love he'll talk about the ants, right? Have the ant philosophy, right? They gather all summer for the winter. They're always moving. They're always, just amazing. Ant philosophy, right? Got to be planting, sowing, and reaping. Got to cast that seed out there. Some of it the birds are going to get. Some of it falls on rock, but some of it falls on fertile ground and it grows, right? Oh my God. Yeah. I start speaking in his cadence when I talk about him.
Yeah. But you went to Tony Robbins as well.
Twice.
I went to the profound effect. Yeah.
Yeah. Unleash the Power Within weekend. I went in 1991 in California. And then my girlfriend, who is my wife today, she goes, well, I saw what this did for you. She says, she got the 30-day program. Every goal she wrote down came true. And this was in, we got together in 94, 95. So she said, if you ever go to another live seminar with him, I want to go with you. And so I felt, it feels good if you led somebody in a positive way. And so in 2019, we went in LA, but when I went in 91, 92, it was in Anaheim, California, and we had 2,000 people, did the fire walk and everything. We went in California in 2019, it was 17,000 people at the LA Convention Center.
Wow.
But it was funny. So you know who Pitbull is, right? Pitbull?
The artist.
Yeah.
The DJ. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a rapper. So he was from Cuba, and so he goes, he was at the last day in LA. He's up on the stage, and he says, when I was a kid, damn it, my mom drove me home from school, and I had to listen to those Tony Robbins tapes, those cassette tapes all day long on the way home. And she goes in, and he goes, you know what? And now my jet is out here parked right next to Tony's. And man, it was so motivational, man. And he was just awesome, man. It really is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's great, like you're saying, when you can get somebody else interested as well. And my ex-girlfriend, credit to her, she loved to learn and listen as well. So I felt amazing when she would listen to me about some
Yeah.
of these ancient philosophies. But there's another something else that happens when you go to these huge conferences. There's a collectivity of energy.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and that just elevates everybody together.
Speak to that, and I'll add something to that. Yeah. If you have any more
Yeah,
on
no,
that, yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we've got our souls, we've got our own vibrations, whether we're happy or sad. But when we meet like-minded people, and we sort of resonate, I mean, we're at the same energy level. So what happens is like, energy will resonate and it will amplify itself. And that's what happens if that's two people. But imagine if it's 17,000 people, you
Yes.
collectively elevate yourself and you create a super soul, if you like, in the room.
No, I agree. And man, that really resonates with me because so I'm in the LA Sheriff's Department, 10,000 people in the LA Sheriff's Department. But I remember, I'm going to this Tony Robbins seminar that I, through my real estate connections. And so, of course, I tell people what I'm doing, and they're like, you're paying $600 to go to hear a guy talk. There was so much negativity to that. Why are you doing that? And then I get to the seminar, man, and then I'm like, all of a sudden, I meet this lady, and she owns 6 salons out of San Francisco. She goes, "Oh, I brought my whole team. I brought everybody. I closed all my shops. And everybody was of a like-minded. I mean, and the energy, like you said, was just like, oh man, if you questioned yourself before the seminar, when you got there, you're like, and the power of that mastermind group is just amazing. Really is.
I have to experience a Tony Robbins event one day.
Yeah. And here's what I like about him. If you've ever watched, he's got the Netflix, special, I'm Not Your Guru, because he really is about, don't follow me, but I want to point you in the direction. Hey, I read this book, read that book, read this guy, don't just look at what I'm doing. I read all these things and it did this for me, so maybe it'll do it for you. So I like that he would point you to other people, or to other philosophies, or, try this, try that. But, don't limit yourself. The past does not equal the future. I mean, you're in charge,
Yeah, I like that. My life started changing as well when I read that book, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I
Yeah,
read it twice. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of like a gateway into law of attraction and
Yeah.
manifestation. So it's an amazing introduction to law of attraction. And after that, I started reading a raft of books on that topic. And obviously, the biggest lesson to take away from law of attraction and that book is we are in control of our
Yeah.
reality and we
That's
can
right.
manifest what we want. We have to change our thinking. And for me, that book really changed the way I was thinking, and my
Yeah.
life became a lot more positive after that.
I don't want to say it's a copy, but there's a before her, I backtracked and I found, have you heard of Earl Nightingale?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
the strangest secret was
Yeah,
his thing, and that
that's
I don't know.
yeah, exactly. I've listened to that as well. It's more
Yeah,
compact, but yeah, it came way before Rhonda Byrne. I think Rhonda Byrne did an amazing job to
she did.
popularize
No,
it,
she
sort
did.
of made
Yeah,
it more mainstream. Yeah,
and I always give credit what credit is due. I sometimes will say, well, listen, this is not something I came up with, but this is my experience with it. That is unique to me, and so. But I always try to point people. This is where I got this from. But it's so good that you're on this path, Dhruv. I mean, man, great things are coming your way for sure. I see great success for you. But and there's no greater joy than having a positive influence on someone else to motivate them in a positive way, to have them take action on something because of something you said. No greater joy.
absolutely, absolutely. I think deep inside, the way nature or God made us is go through hardship, learn lessons, but you will not go to heaven or you won't get a better afterlife unless you share those lessons with somebody else.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
inherently, we as humans, we always feel amazing when we teach people. So teachers, I mean, they don't get paid that much money, but many of them do love their jobs because they're teaching. It's a natural human instinct to teach and share. And so we're all teachers on some level. And so we feel good when we're imparting knowledge.
You sparked another memory of what Jim Rohn would say, right? Something to the effect of, what if you got the tent, you're waiting for 400 people, but 4 people show up, He said, well, I would give the seminar because, hey, you know what? The greatest gift I get is I get to hear this stuff all day. I get to hear it again. If I tell people about it, I get to hear it over and over again. So, that is so true, man. Yeah. So there's the only way, and I did this when I ended up facilitating some teaching for our sexual harassment policy in Los Angeles. But the only way, to teach something, that's the only way you're really going to learn it, man, because you really buckle down. I got to learn this stuff if I'm going to impart it on somebody. So if you really want to learn something, teach it, right? Yeah.
100%. But I do look back at my university days, and all due respect to these professors at universities, and they're teaching us all these things, but they've never really done any work outside of academia, most of them at least.
Yeah.
But they're teaching you about business, and they're teaching you about these things. And I'm like, wow, who did I learn from?
I do have a problem with that. Even I have a problem with, and that's why I have to learn from, and I'd rather teach from a point of walking the talking, So I'd like to learn from somebody who's done it, like you said, not somebody, well, I know the theory down pat. Well, I want to know that if you know how to dig mud, I want to see that you've dug in the mud,
100%.
Some people get out, oh, you post all your workout videos, when you're in the gym, and because I walk the talk. If I say I'm doing these things, I'm actually doing them. I actually, when I was deciding, I was still doing comedy, and I had a comedy coach, and I said, I'm thinking about kind of more towards motivation and personal growth and doing these kinds of things. And he goes, well, Cliff, you're already doing it. You do it every day, so why wouldn't you? And so that made sense to me. Okay, I'm already doing that. So like you are, I'm already studying philosophy. I'm already studying how can we be better and better? What can I do to think differently and have a better impact on other people? So if you're already doing that, just turn on the camera, write it down, put it out in the world.
Absolutely. And you're doing a great job.
You too, my brother. Yeah, I'm so glad we hooked up. God, I'm going to be respectful of your time. We're getting to the end here. What do you? Any final messages, and where can I send people that want to connect with you?
Yeah, final messages, we both talked about it, is we got to become better at listening to our souls, and we don't have to believe what anybody says unless it reasons with us. And believe in God, believe in philosophy, believe in nature, and these things help you guide you to better decisions. I'm on that journey myself. I haven't reached exactly where I want to reach, but I do know a belief in God and a belief in higher powers is putting me on that path. And yeah, that would be my message. And where can people find me?
Yes.
So on search, you can find me on all the major podcast platforms, Midlife Masculine Podcast, or my website, mlmpod.info.
Okay, if anybody's listening or watching on YouTube, I'm going to put the links in the description. Please check out Dhruv, and also on a podcast platform, I'll put it in the show notes. And man, Dhruv Sethi, you're awesome. And hang around after for the debriefing. And man, it's been a pleasure meeting and talking with you. And I think maybe we'll have a positive impact on somebody.
Absolutely. You're a great host, and thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the chat.
You got it, brother. All right, everybody. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show. You know I love you.